All right, welcome everybody to Silicon Zombies, where we bring you the best brains from the Bay to beyond. We're here in beautiful Santa Rafael with my friend Catherine Breed, and Silicon Zombies Unplugged. Pretty cool. We get to kind of have more of these intimate chats. Catherine, of course, you were at Ageless last year, which is super cool.
Yes.
Packed the house, like 400 plus people. But this is kind of a different vibe, and I dig it. I dig it.
Yeah.
So I guess like without any further ado, like your accomplishments are incredible, but it's not just the accomplishments, it's the journey and the insights and the grit. So really jazzed to talk to you a little bit about that today. But more importantly, your experience as a 6-time world record holder, expert in the biotech medtech space. I feel like these things have a lot of interesting overlaps. So we'll get into some of that today. But to light this candle, perhaps you can share a little bit about yourself, and we'll get the ball rolling.
Sure.
We'll dive in.
Yeah. No, I love the fun. My name is Catherine Breed. My friends or anyone calls me Cat. I am a certified water baby. I grew up in the water. My mom said I jumped off the diving board at 18 months old, and that has since, I think, set the trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
I would identify as a water woman, an adventure and ultra endurance athlete. My swims have taken me all over the world, and within that set some records for well-known swims.
Wow.
And outside of that, I volunteer with Ski Patrol. I do mountaineering. I trail run. I've done Ironmans. So I don't think we have to be just one thing, and I try not to be.
Yeah. That's beautifully put. Also pretty fortunate that the thing that makes you happy has also opened up so many cool opportunities, so many doors all around the world. We were just talking about France recently. What was that experience like with the whole Ironman thing?
Oh my gosh, Ironman was a funny year-long journey for me. I randomly ended up doing an Ironman in Cozumel. They canceled the swim and my bike didn't shift, and I still somehow got third. And in getting third, I qualified for Worlds.
Yeah.
And it's in France, and I've never been to Nice. So I was like, well, I guess I should go.
Sure.
So I did a year of triathlon. I got a first place in my age group, a second place in my age group. And then Worlds was kind of an epic disaster in like the most comical way, because it's not my sport. But I did the swim, it went really well, and then was leading the race onto the bike. And then 20 miles in to 112 miles biking on an 8,000 gain course, my shifting stopped working.
Again,
yep. So I've never done a full Ironman with
fishy. Somebody's conspiring against you, Cat.
So I got on and off on every hill and shifted my bike.
Manually.
Yep. And then on the run, the porta potties were a savior. So that was a rough race.
Well, I mean, I'm so curious. Like, if your bike had functioned correctly, that might have changed things. So I guess when that happens, how do you manage? My question is, how do you manage these kind of setbacks and frustrations mentally? Is there like an observe, orient, decide, action kind of thing, or what's your process?
Yeah, I think when big challenges happen out of nowhere, there's always going to be a gut reaction, right? And so my first gut reaction was, are you kidding me?
Come on.
And then when I realized it was a pretty bleak situation and no mechanic could figure it out, the tears happened. And then I did think about quitting for a second, and I checked all my body parts. I was like, well, my body still works.
Plus, it makes it like an amazing story.
Whatever. Like, you're just going to finish it.
My bike didn't work. I still got third. It's like, what?
Well, that was in the first. Yeah. And so ultimately I was like, I'm fine. I'm not in danger. I have my health. And so I just plugged along, and I got a little tougher after that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll obviously shift back to the fun adventures in nature, but perhaps we could parallel that with setbacks in the boardroom. Because like the name is like of the show, which is Saltwater and strength.
Steel. Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Yeah, I think, one of the questions you'd asked was, how do you navigate uncharted waters? And I think adversity is uncharted water. But there were a few answers I was thinking about with that. And I think there's uncharted waters in the sense of an experience you're new to, and very rarely is something truly uncharted. Someone else has probably experienced it and work. In terms of my swimming, someone has probably charted that water before, but it's uncharted, it's new to me. And so the way I go about things in work or in my swimming when it's uncharted to me is I ask the experts. So in work, it'd be who are my mentors, my manager, my colleagues. I get
Oh, yeah.
insight, and you understand the situations they've went through or are going through that are similar to what you are experiencing, and then create a game plan for there. Last weekend I swam Tamales Bay, which was really
Beautiful area.
cool.
Yeah.
But I never swam there, so it was uncharted to me.
Mm-hmm.
But people do swim there, and so we started with talking to an expert. Did my research. I looked at the tides. I looked at the wind. All things you're familiar with
Sure.
surfing. I had safety. I had, my boyfriend's on the kayak with me, and I know my ability can handle it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, is going through this prescriptive of like, lean on your resources, talk to a mentor, come up with a game plan. I also want to talk about, though, uncharted waters in terms of more your psyche.
Yeah.
And because I think that's more interesting. Whenever I coach athletes, I always encourage them to do a training session or two where they fail, because I want them to fail and see who they meet.
When you say fail, do you mean set a goal that you know you're not going to achieve?
Yeah.
Okay.
So doing a training session that is too hard.
Yeah.
And the reason that I think it's important to meet yourself at your worst or meet yourself in those dark moments is so that when that happens on the race, you've already met her. And you're like,
Yeah.
hey, I know this person, and
Yeah.
this person's tough. This person's not going to quit.
Yeah.
I've done training sessions where I got off a plane home from a work trip in Dallas. I swam from 8 p.m. to midnight. I woke up the next morning at 6 a.m. and I swam for another 4 hours.
Wow.
I felt like, I was a
Sure.
mess. Like that was me getting to failure.
Yeah.
But I knew, okay, this is what happens when I'm tired, when I'm exhausted, when I feel lonely in the water. And now when that happens on my swims in the middle of the North Channel, 11 hours and white caps at 52 degrees, I'm like, oh, hey, like we've been here, let's get through this. So I think there's two different ways to think about uncharted. Is uncharted and like what's in front of me, what can I write on paper, and then who do I become? You need to meet that person.
Yeah.
Does that
100%.
Yeah.
Because like if you look at it from like a data perspective, there's the data points that you've seen before. They're not brand new, so you kind of know how to react to that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the psychological space of like a really long swim, but what about boredom? Or do you ever is that happen when you're swimming for like hours and hours and hours? You're like, man, I wish I could be doing something else. Or
Yeah, it's funny.
you get into a groove, I would have guessed.
Totally. I've been building my base back up for some big swims I have this year, and early in building that base, I was so bored. I'm like, oh my God, I can't swim for 30 minutes. Like that's so long. And now I'm well past that. And
You
feel
broke
pretty
on through to the other
good.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm in my marathon swims, boredom is not a factor because there are so much complexities, and these swims are very dynamic.
Sure.
Any endurance athletes I talk to that are doing 12 plus long hour endeavors, you kind of black out. I don't know how to explain it. But it's this insane flow state where all I'm doing is thinking about what is my muscle doing and taking one stroke after the next. I do think about, when am I going to eat next?
Sure.
And I think about some fun things.
Sure.
What flights can I take? Or I think about other challenges I've had along the way. But for the most part, I'm pretty just in the zone.
Yeah. Because all of your mental energy, I would guess, is focused on just peak performance.
Oh my God. I'm so glad. So I say that all the time, is that I think you have so many energy units per day.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful how you spend them. We all think about our physical energy units, an Ironman or any race. They're like, don't burn your matches. But mental thinking about things outside of your control is burning those matches.
Yeah.
So I think in order to conserve mental energy units, don't just take worrying off the table.
I think it almost feels like a philosophy of like stoicism a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't studied it, but yes, from what I know, I feel like that would align. Yeah.
One of the greats was Marcus Aurelius, and he wrote this book, Meditations.
Okay.
It was actually just personal thoughts for himself. Like he never really expected them to be to be available to everyone. So like reflections, and because one of the main philosophies is like, rejoice that we're alive, and um, control the things that you can control. And it almost feels like this kind of like mental barrier of fortitude of not getting distracted, because it almost feels like it could be like a spiral. If you worry about this thing,
Yeah.
like they say, you're paying rent on something you haven't bought or
Yeah.
whatever, and then that leads to something else and something else. So, I mean, there's this one idea of like standing at the helm of your mind and only letting good thoughts in. How are you thinking about this concept of like mental fortitude? Because like obviously you got to be in great shape, but it's the mental strength that gets you like these incredible world records. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think mental strength, I mean, using mental strength, you've got to exercise it. And that's kind of going back to that you need to meet yourself at failure. So you do something that teaches you that you're tough enough to get it done, do something a little bit harder. And so that's how you're strengthening that. For myself, I don't exactly know if I can really explain where the fortitude comes from. I think I've had a lifetime of adversity in my 32 years of life. And so I've just, I do carry a lot of that with me, but I don't think you only have to let positive thoughts through. Having the wall, I think it's okay to let negative thoughts through and acknowledge them and then send them on their way.
Yeah. It's like, like Aikido, like
Yeah. It's like, okay, this is really hard. And I
Yeah.
think that's okay to speak that out loud. I've had swims where I've literally listed everything in my life that I've gone through that's harder than the marathon swim I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, okay, like you're prepared. And
Yeah.
I guess it's just to remind myself that all those things have made me strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably helps that you run in impressive circles too. Like our mutual friend Bianca Valenti, like world-class surfer.
Yeah.
I remember we were in Fiji like maybe 8 months ago or something, a little bit longer. And we were surfing Cloudbreak, which is like a really scary wave.
Yeah.
It was double overhead.
Oh my gosh.
And I was prepared, like I was in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
And wearing an impact vest and a helmet, but it was just like it's just scary and shallow.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll never forget this. There was a big set that was coming straight towards you, and like the natural inclination cat is like, like, no, I'm gonna paddle for this thing and over it or try and get under it.
Yeah.
But then I saw her on the shoulder, and she's like, paddle, paddle, paddle. I was like, I cannot let Bianca down. So I scratched into this thing, and I made it. And it was just like, I will never forget it. It's just like the rush of the wind and the water and the experience and like the electricity, and maybe these things can give us grit later. I mean, grit is so much of like a kind of a core element of how you help shape yourself and help shape others too. What does that look like?
Grit for me? I think grit, it's funny. I do say the word a lot, but I think it's been spun and like become this like fancy buzzword nowadays.
Tenacity.
It's like, oh, you've got grit. And I don't know if it's like almost like we need to reclaim the word. Because people have made it synonymous. It's been overused, and it's made it synonymous with like you work really hard by putting in a lot of hours or something.
It does kind of cheapen it.
It does cheapen it a little.
It's like supply and demand. Like when there's too much, not demand, but utilization. Like for example, the phrase keep calm and carry on.
Yeah.
Back before that got popular, that was like immensely valuable to me personally.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
But then when it started like getting put on like coffee mugs, and I was like, all right,
gotta take the poster down in my house.
Let's find something new.
Yeah. So for me, I personally define grit as strength and courage in the face of adversity while pursuing a goal.
Okay. Yeah.
And that sometimes, I was talking to a friend about this morning. Sometimes having grit is knowing when to pivot or quit or go a different direction. And that's courage. But it's also the courage of seeing a huge double overhead wave and paddling into it. So I think grit has a almost element of like getting over your fears.
Yeah. And that does give you more confidence, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they say, like in order for virtue to exist, you have to overcome the opposite of that. Like if I climb a tree, but I'm not afraid of heights, I'm not being brave. I'm just climbing a
Yeah,
tree.
yeah,
But if
yeah.
there's like that personal journey,
Yeah.
and that brings us to an interesting point. It's like I think so so often we're like when somebody says like tell me about yourself or what's your bio. I think as humans, we have this kind of rote concept of listing our accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
But those accomplishments are not who we are. They're like the result of a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, how do you, when somebody says like, tell me about yourself, there's probably this kind of automatic default of like, well, this is what I do professionally. These are the like awesome successes that I've had, but like humans are so much more.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about that recently, just when people are like, "Oh, what do you do?" Everyone's like, "Oh, this is what I do for work."
yeah,
And like that's our default
feels cheap.
answer. I'm
Yeah,
like, "Well, we do more." I mean,
yeah,
if you love your job and like that is what you do and you're like founding a company, like amazing. That's fine.
mm,
But if you're so much more than that, why don't we say it, or why do we feel ashamed to say that we're more than just our job?
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. When Well, I mean, it's fortunate to have folks that have blazed the trail prior. You talked a little bit about your mentors.
Mm-hmm.
I found that like really helpful for myself because it's almost like a like a like a map
Mm-hmm.
to kind of help us get to where we want to go.
Right.
Maybe you could share some stories about mentors that you've had and people who've had a big impact on you.
Yeah, when I think about like people who have inspired me, I wasn't the kid who had some poster on my wall of
Yeah.
like this is my hero. I don't know. So I don't have like one person,
Hmm.
but I like to say that you should surround yourself with people who inspire sparks of potential
Ooh,
within yourself.
I like the word spark.
I love it.
There's just like something like kind of effervescent about
It's
it.
so good. I don't
Yeah.
even know if I came up with it or someone else, but I love saying
Yeah.
that. And so for me, my mentors are the people who inspire me that I look up to, are my friends, my
Yeah.
community. I'm friends with moms who are badass attorneys and
Wow.
raising babies and still finding time for fitness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bianca, I have my friend Amanda who's founding I have multiple friends who are founders and like
Mm.
going out and doing scary things. Friends who are pursuing first attempts. So I think
Wow.
for me, I surround myself with people who are constantly inspiring me. And
Raises the
if
bar.
it raises the bar and it also allows for us to talk about those hard things. So maybe they're not mentors by name,
Yeah.
but the way that we can converse and
Mm.
problem solve is really beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome advice.
Yeah.
Because like the community of Silicon Zombies is like a lot of founders and funders and friends
Hmm.
and folks that can learn can learn from these lessons and apply them in their own life.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, I'm curious, how do you structure your day? Like we all get 24 hours a day, 168 hours in the week, and it almost feels like, given the like wildly impressive accomplishments that you have, that you must have a very structured way. Also, I want to understand like your diet and like maybe some tips and
Yeah.
tricks that you can give us on
Yeah.
how to eat healthy too. But like, how do you structure your day um, to kind of to make sure that you're able to like accomplish what you're look when you wake up? What
Yeah, yeah,
happens?
yeah. Okay, well, first thing, I mean, I eat healthy, but I don't eat that healthy.
Yeah.
I love candy. I don't know.
What's your favorite candy?
I go after like peach rings or Swedish
Okay,
fish.
okay, there
It's
you go.
not good. Like, I don't know when this like
I think
addiction
you earned some Swedish
started.
fish. So, all good.
Chocolate covered gummy bears.
Oh my God.
Anyways, the food thing, I'll start with that.
Sure.
I'm big on just like eat when you're hungry
Yeah.
and eat what your body's telling you to eat.
Yeah.
We get so stuck in these fads of diet this and don't eat this and watch your calories and eat. Just listen to your
Yeah.
body. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
if I want candy, it's probably because I'm dehydrated and need electrolytes.
Yeah.
And so okay, let's start with that. So yeah, just chill on the dieting and like eat what your
It's
body's
easy
asking
to get
for.
like kind of obsessed in that capacity.
Totally.
Yeah.
The second question, how do I schedule my days? I don't know if I have a good answer for this, but I have a little calendar in my office, and every month I
Yeah.
sit and I write out my month and I
Oh,
plan, this is how much training that I have to do this week, this week, this week, this
yeah.
week. And it's just totals.
Oh, okay.
And then every Thursday, I plan my following work week. I look at the
Mm.
surgery schedule, where I need to be, what meetings I have. Then I plan work week, and then I fill that in with training.
Oh, I see.
Right now, I'm training about 12 hours a week. It's probably going to get up to 18 hours a week. And so a lot of that will be funneled to weekend time.
Sure.
But that's, yeah. So I Thursday nights, and then my days, every day is completely different.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty cool.
working in the hospital, it is really cool, but it can also be hard to have a schedule because in the hospital, surgeries cancel or move or are delayed. So I'm constantly having to pivot.
Yeah.
And just being okay in those pivots and always having other things lined up, whether they're professional meetings or whether it's, oh, I now have 20 minutes to work on this, on the nonprofit stuff that I'm building. Like I can do that.
Oh,
And
okay.
so,
It'd be cool if you could
yeah.
bring like those pools that are like mini
Oh
pools
my
with
gosh.
the
Yeah.
jets. They're like 10 feet long or something.
Yeah. Well,
You just always travel with one of those, right?
I'm really, really, really fortunate that I'm a member of the Olympic Club and the Dolphin Club,
Yeah.
and both of them are open
Sure.
5 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay.
So I have access to the water all the time. And
Plus, the Olympic Club is
oh my
gorgeous.
gosh,
It's just
the Olympic Club's so
it's like
nice.
from the 20s, like kind of Art Deco
The
kind of
club
a
was
vibe.
founded in 1860. It
Wow.
is the oldest athletic club in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit about your professional endeavors as well.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned that my mom just recently
Mm,
had
yeah.
surgery. And in fact, she had a targeted therapeutic that really only came out of clinical trials a couple of
Very
years
cool.
ago. So, they got rid of the cancer. She's doing great, thanks God.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Yeah.
Thank you. But I believe they used the
Da Vinci
robot.
robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the Da Vinci robot.
Yeah, so I've been working with Intuitive Surgical for 8 months, but I've been in healthcare for 10 years. Uh, Intuitive Surgical makes the Da Vinci robot and Ion, but the robot does minimally invasive surgery. And
Yeah.
so the robot arms are over the patient, and the surgeon is in the room, unsterile, operating the robot from a console. Kind of
Wow.
looks like their head's in like this, big viewer, and their hands are moving
Wow.
the instruments that are in the patient. It allows for more precision,
Sure.
3D visualization, which they don't get with traditional minimally invasive, and more
Okay.
control. So they're able to do finer dissection, more complex surgeries on the
My
robot.
my guess is that if you can kind of zoom in and zoom out and see things
Oh
at
my gosh.
various
Yeah.
transparencies or opacities, you could see, well, it turns out like this organ is like an inch away, so you got to be hyper careful. Is that kind of like how it's? I mean, I've seen
A
the
little bit,
videos where it's like
yeah.
doing sutures on a corn
Okay,
or
yeah,
like something
maybe, yeah.
super.
Yeah, I mean it allows up for like 40 times magnification. So it's just
We live in the future,
it's
basically.
very cool
Yeah.
technology. Yeah, it's very cool, and I'm really grateful to work for such a great company
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is innovating, and that I in a way have a direct impact on patients in the Bay Area that are getting surgery,
Yeah.
that there's now an option for them to not have a big incision down their whole midline.
Yeah.
They can have it done with four tiny little
Yeah.
8 millimeter incisions.
It's kind of barbaric by contrast.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's like yeah, it's just let's get the chainsaw.
Yeah.
It's we've like moved in
Yeah.
such a right
Yeah.
direction. What attracted you to the health tech space originally? Do you have a lot of curiosity about the human body? I mean, and then you obviously there's agency because you obviously are in great shape, and so
Mhm.
that matters to you, I assume.
Yeah, it does. When I was in kindergarten, I said with conviction that I was going to be a pediatric oncologist.
Wow.
like a 6 years old. I don't know how
Yeah.
I knew those words, but I did. And so that was what I was going to be. I was
Yeah.
going to be that. And then I think around high school, college, I was going to be an ER doc.
Yeah.
And that was my life plan. And you know what they say about plans, they don't usually,
Yeah.
happen how you think they're going to. Pre-med in Berkeley, started pursuing medical school, and I felt really strung out. And this actually is kind of the story of like how I ended up where I am now and like sitting and
Cool.
talking to you. But so I thought I was going to go to med school, and then there was like a job in the middle, but I had a friend who was like, you should get in med device sales. And I was like, that's crazy. I'm not a salesperson. I don't want to sell things. And he's like, no, that's not what it is. Like, you're a consultant for the hospital. Like, you're working with these surgeons with the hospital. And I was like, okay, fine. So I got a job and with a med device company, and then worked with BD Becton Dickinson for 6 years, and now I'm with Intuitive. And so over the 8 years of doing med device sales, I've just completely fallen in love with that. I get to be part of the hospital, part of surgeons' growth. But I also have the time to do the things that I love.
Yeah.
So I've always been interested about the human body. I was undergrad student instructor for anatomy in college, a biology tutor. So it really is where my interests are. And if I rewind a little bit, in the middle of my med device career, I think it was during COVID. I had an MCAT scheduled because I was like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to do med school. And I listened to this interview with Courtney DeWalter. She's ultra marathon trail runner, probably one of the best, period, male or female, right now. And she had this interview, and she was talking about, she's 40. Why are you still trail running? And she's like, I get to do this, and I'm gonna do it full gas for as long as I'm capable of.
What a badass.
And I was like, I love that. Like, we get to do these things in life, and you don't get to do them forever.
Yeah.
And it was after I heard that interview, I canceled my MCAT. I went full into swimming the Monterey Bay.
Really?
And when I swam the Monterey Bay, raised money for diversity in aquatics, and I broke the record for that. And kind of since then, I feel like my open water swimming is just kind of snowballed in this really positive way. And I'm like, yeah, I get to do this. And this is the impact I want to make. This is like what I want to leave in the world, because this was the gift I was given. And so I love my life. And then I joined Ski Patrol for volunteer, which is so fun because I'm on the volunteer side, but I get to now do like first aid.
Wow.
And I'm like, I love my life.
Yeah,
I get to like
job.
swim, I get to work in the hospital with robots, and I get to like treat people on the mountain and ski. And I'm like, I don't know. I think sometimes, little 6-year-old Catherine who wanted to be a pediatric oncologist, I'm not doing that, but the themes are there.
The themes are still there.
Yeah.
And plus, it's like, I bet you the 6-year-old version of yourself would be even more stoked, because you get to do like multiple cool things that are all, I would say, they feel very much aligned.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in life, there was this reel that was trending for a little bit, and it's like, there's only 2 people in the world that matter: the 8-year-old version and the 80-year-old version.
Wow.
And I've been asking my friends a lot recently, what's the perfect day when you're 80? Like, what would your perfect day be when you're 80 years old?
Oh, thank you for the question.
Am I allowed to ask questions?
No, totally. This is back and forth, Well, definitely just like good food, good friends, good family, and surfing, and then being in nature.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So who's the guy in the the kind of goofy actor, Pete something, he was like dating one of the Kardashians. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Davidson.
Yeah,
Pete Davidson,
he's very funny.
Yeah.
He was on a movie, and the movie, I think it was a couple years ago, kept replaying. It was like the same. I never actually saw the movie, but I heard an interview with him on NPR, which I love.
Yeah.
And they asked him that question. They said, "What would you, if you could redo, on repeat? Would it be the day that you won an Oscar or something like that?"
Yeah.
And he's like, absolutely not. Like, the reason that was so cool is because it was a once in a lifetime kind of a thing you got to experience. Like, if you had a day, and I know this is not exactly your question, but there's like vibes, right? Then it just feels like the things that truly fill you to your core, and and it's good to find those things and then do those things even when we like lose track. Like sometimes my wife Sandra will say like, you need to go surfing, and I'll be like, oh my god, I kind of forgot about that, and then I'll do it and I'll just have like this peace and this calm and this kind of like just doing mentally so much better.
Totally.
So in answer to your question, it would be probably just like a very mellow day, just kind of doing nothing but hanging out, making jokes, making food, and maybe instead of 80, I don't know, maybe we do that when we're like 150.
Yeah, I
like
love it.
the whole speaking of longevity,
Yeah.
you knocked it out of the park for the Ageless Longevity Summit
Thanks.
last year. So
I loved it. Yeah.
So thank you for that. How did you because you're doing a lot more public speaking now, how did you amp yourself up? Because it was like 9 or 10 in the morning. It's like hundreds of people in the audience.
Yeah.
And you're pretty brave. How did you approach that?
I was so scared. I mean, even
you
coming here,
hit it well.
like even before we went live, I was like, oh my god, my heartbeat is racing so fast.
But there's no audience, so it's pretty chill. Right?
I mean, people, I hope people are listening. But
I'm in the room.
Yeah. But
don't worry, my grandma's watching, so that's okay.
Before that, I read the speech so many times. I'm a very like prepared person. And we can talk about that in open water swimming too, but like I'm very structured in the way I do things. So like I had my speech, I prepared it, but then when we got there, I thought I was going to have like a podium, but instead I had to hold the mic and I panicked. I was like, I'm going to
changes everything.
It did. You should have seen it. My heart rate went up to like 90. I was literally shaking and I was like, I can't use my note cards. I have to hold the mic. And as soon as I got up on stage and started talking, I was like, oh,
yeah.
Wait, I'm talking about what I'm an expert in and what I love.
We got this.
Yeah. So it is funny that, I'm like, I'll go swim in the ocean with sharks or, go surf, but I'm like, oh, standing up on stage is scary. But it's because you're putting yourself out there, and putting yourself out there is a scary thing, however you do it.
For sure. Well, however you managed, thank you for doing such a good job. It actually kind of that dovetails back into what we were talking about earlier of planning for failure, so it's not brand new when you encounter it.
I think when I go about planning a swim, I do want to have this is A, B, C, D, how we're going to accomplish this, and have the training in. But I think also people get really scared of failure to the point, we're talking about like prepare for failure, but like knowing what happens when you fail. But also, I notice that some people won't try things because they're afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bummer. And I'm going to say something a little controversial
take.
A hot take is I think women have a tendency to do that more in, I'll say that, athletic, outdoor endurance space. I am friends with a lot of women, and I notice there's a little more trepidation to try something scary, and I don't know where that stems for us. If we're scared about, if we're not good enough.
It's got to be nurture, because it's obviously not nature.
Yeah.
I would guess it's not nature.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but for myself, I always try to encourage my friends of like, hey, let's push ourselves a little bit, and like do it in a safe environment. And what's the worst that happens?
Yeah.
You fail. Oh, like if you sign up for a half marathon and you get a cramp and you can't finish, you stop.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life. Like we need to keep perspective on things. If you want to go climb Mount Shasta or Mount Whitney and you get halfway up and altitude sickness takes over, turn around.
Yeah.
Like it's okay.
Yeah.
But people,
you got to give yourself permission, I guess.
So afraid to start because that might happen. And I'd love to see that shift. And I think I'm seeing that more in the women in my circle, but yeah.
Do you think it's fear of self-judgment or judgment from others? 'Cause I really think those are the only two things, right?
I'm not sure, but I do know once women get into that, like it is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in like ultra endurance sports, I think women are better than men or faster than men. Definitely in open water swimming.
Mm-hmm.
I think women's times on average are faster. Wow. So I'm like, ladies, like,
Yeah.
let's go. Like,
Yeah.
we've got this. Like,
Yeah.
and so that's been a fun, like, passion of mine, is like, how can I get more like female friends and female community to kind of break through that fear in big things. Yeah.
We have some questions from the
okay.
audience.
So we have a question from Ryan. So he said, all mental toughness is literally everything. Wondering how Catherine keeps her cool when sharks and board meetings are equally terrifying.
Yeah, sharks and board meetings. A lot of them I'm not in any board meetings yet, but
What about the shark?
the shark. Yeah, I have had a shark encounter. Don't swim in Aptos, by the way. I know you guys just moved there. Do not swim in Aptos.
Were you near the cement ship?
Yes.
Oh yeah, there's tons of sharks over there.
And I know that. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter, la di da di da. And it was funny that day. I felt it. I was like, oh, there is something in the water. And then like a few minutes later, there was a fin. And
wow.
My friend was like, Cat.
Yeah.
And I looked over and I'm like, oh. And I started sprinting really fast. And then I stopped. I was
back up.
Yeah.
How deep were you? How far away was it?
Like
what did you see?
We were 300 yards away from the beach.
My God, 3 football fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's far.
That is far. And I saw a fin about where you are.
A dorsal, I assume.
Yep, dorsal fin.
Right next to you.
It was on the other side of him, but he was on a prone, so that's like not very far.
Yeah.
And I sprinted, and there's a lesson here, but I panicked. I was like, oh my God. And so I started like going as fast as I could. And I saw, after I saw my heart rate spike on my watch, and then I stopped after a few fast strokes. I was like, what do I do? And he was like, we get to shore.
Yeah.
And then I calmed down and I swam to shore. And the lesson there was, I think our initial reaction is, this is scary. Let's panic. Let's move quick. But
fight or flight.
Fight or flight. But I think if you want to move quick, you need to move deliberately. And in the way that shark is looking at me is, are you prey? I did look like prey. When I'm panicked, when I'm not handling myself well, when I'm not being tough, that's what I look like. And then I took a beat and I calmed down and I started swimming calmly. I started thinking, all right, what do I need to do? I need to get to shore. How do we get to shore? We swim smoothly and calmly and we go. And so I think that's the same with work or your life, is you're going to have a gut reaction. Take a breath. What do you need to do? How are you going to do it?
That's beautiful advice.
Yeah.
And also because like, let's, compare that with like being in the boardroom, like Ryan's question, if you allow yourself to get flustered because somebody is like says something rude to you and you react, I guess it's just not being reactive.
Yeah, and we all react. And if you do react, like I reacted to something a while ago and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a human. I had a moment.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. Like, being right next to it's interesting because like these creatures, which I have immense respect for, and it's always just been kind of like a fear and fascination ever since I was a little kid. Yeah. Great whites specifically, or their Latin name Carcharodon carcarius. Oh yeah. They're like Suburbans with teeth and unchanged for like 200 plus million years. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I'm so glad that you had the frame of mind to react and be calm, because if your heartbeat races, that's probably another sign that you could be prey. And also I heard seals pee when they're scared. Yeah. So I don't pee in my wetsuit anymore.
That's funny. I haven't heard that one.
So
okay.
So speaking of like you getting ready for a swim.
Yeah.
What is your like step-by-step process?
Yeah, I'm actually getting ready for a swim right now. So there's 2 swims I'm doing this summer. First one, I'm going to swim the Lake Tahoe water trail, which is circumnavigating Lake Tahoe, 72 miles. I'm going to do that over 5 days. I don't think it's ever been done, but if anyone here knows someone that has done it, please tell me, because I don't want to claim first if it's not the first. So that's one. And then the second swim I'm planning for is the Farallons.
Wow.
So as we're talking about sharks, I had a dream of one the other day, and the one in my dream was literally the size of a school bus.
Wow.
But anyways, I'm going to swim from the Fairlawns in. And so how do I plan for those? So the first is I'm looking what dates are good, what weather windows are good. And then from there, you're kind of thinking what tides, what time of day do I need to go? Then you get the support crew, so hiring a boat. And during this whole process, you're talking to experts. I mean, for the Farallons, I'm talking to so many people that are experts about the island, the sharks, the currents, the swimming part of it. And then once the logistics are ironed out, I train, and it's my job to be the athlete.
Is there like a big net that protects you?
No.
You're just out there. Yeah. When I was
sorry, Mom. She's asked me not to do this swim, but
yeah. Well, it's calling you, obviously. And so probably like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a couple more than that rather. It was near Christmas time. I was surfing Fort Point, right underneath the Golden Gate, and what's interesting, I mean, you mentioned tides, right? So like when the tides go in, it fills the bay. When the tides go out, it pulls.
Yeah.
And it's
fast.
Yeah. And so there's this thing called the South Tower Devil. It's like 6 knots or something. And the waves were like big, but nothing crazy. It was like 10 foot plus. And I was paddling, and I started noticing like the bridge was moving further away. It's like you could hear weird acoustics bouncing from the cars. And then I just recognized I was being pulled out, and I like started to panic too. Actually got pulled out over half a mile, and the Coast Guard had to come pick me up. But for me, that was like a scary situation. I ended up seeing another boat, so the boat helped out. But for me, I had a board. I wasn't just by myself, and I had like these replays of a great white, because they have like this ambush style of attack. Not to freak you out, but like I had to like be very conscious in getting myself over that, and not, I had to keep my cool. Do you how do you keep your mind off of these things?
I mean, I don't.
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Yeah, I think about it.
You recognize it and you let it go, kind of like you were.
Yeah, when I swam, so when I've swam Monterey Bay and then the Golden Gate Bridge to Half Moon Bay swim, Sharky swims, it panics me for maybe the first 30 minutes.
Okay.
And then I'm like, well, you're in it. You've got a job to do.
Yeah.
And you've got other things to think about.
Yeah.
Mental energy.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
I trust my crew. If a fin comes up, we get out of the water. The sharks aren't dumb, and I have a shark shield. I have a kayak. There's a boat. For Half Moon Bay, we had a jet ski. There's a full emergency action plan that includes the highway patrol, the Coast Guard, the Half Moon Bay Harbor.
Wow.
I'm not just there is a trauma kit on board. There are tourniquets. There are people that have first aid training. This isn't like, I'm going to go for a swim and be dangerous. And I think we need to, like, something I like to say is and this is from Bragg, big wave training, if you're familiar with the Bragg course, but we have to be risk technicians, not risk takers. And I love that.
I really, when you had mentioned that in the notes for our prep, I was like, risk technician, that is super cool.
Yeah.
Because it applies to like so many things.
So many things is people look at those that are doing adrenaline sports or adventure sports or endurance. It's like, oh, they love adrenaline and they're risk takers. I was talking to my boyfriend about Alex Honnold, and he's not climbing El Cap being like, oh, I'm going to take risk and I'm doing this with adrenaline. He's calculated the risk and he knows he can do it. And I think those of us that run in that circle recognize that within each other, but the outside looking in is like, you're crazy. And I'm like, to you, I might be crazy, but to me, if I was you stuck out, I've been in that South Tower with that current.
Yeah.
And I swam to the rocks, I caught an eddy, and I got in.
Yeah.
I know what to do.
I did not do that.
You didn't do that. That's okay.
But I know now.
It's like we know how to handle this because we've spent so much time preparing.
Yeah. That's really helpful. In fact, I've shared that with Sandra in the past, because like sometimes if you're going out and like double overhead, triple overhead waves, it can seem like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you do that? And it doesn't, you have to be conscious of what you're doing and where you are, and
Yeah.
not put yourself in scenarios like. But at other points, it can actually like elevate that. I remember surfing at Steamer Lane, probably like 10+ years ago,
Hmm.
and it was like 10 o'clock at night. The waves were ginormous. And the tide was high, so I was like almost getting smashed into the
Yeah.
rocks, and I'm thinking like it was just foolish,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I went into this space, like I broke through the panic because I was like starting to hyperventilate,
Hmm.
and I ditched my board. I swam to the bottom. I came back up after the wave hit,
Yeah.
and then I did that a couple times because I was like, a couple feet from the rocks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then it just everything slowed down, and I just really relaxed. And then I went about another quarter mile down, and then climbed out the other rocks, and then I threw up because I had drank so much salt water, and I was just like terrified,
Yeah.
but I was just like very grateful.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any kind of unique close calls in this capacity, or?
I mean, I had when I'm swimming, I had one at a spot I won't name on the coast, but I went out on a very big day by myself. My board was maybe a little too short. I was on an 8.6, probably needed like a 9.6 for
Sure.
that day, but I caught one wave and it was so good.
Yes.
And I was like, hell yeah. I was like, let's go out for more. And as I started paddling out, I just got a full set like on the head, and it
Oh my
ended
God.
up.
Did your leash didn't snap, I hope?
So it put me down far enough that my 8.6 board was tombstoning, and my probably 10-foot leash, and then I'm 6 feet was
Yeah,
underwater, and I
that's
was
deep.
like, I need to get up for air,
Yeah.
like now. And
Yeah.
I got up, and then another wave came, broke my board in half. So I was now without a board underwater a second time. But I was like, you know what? I'm a really good ocean swimmer. One, two,
Like one of the best.
I can hold my breath for 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So these 20 seconds are okay.
Yeah.
Let's swim.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know the tide's here. You know if you get past this point, you're screwed. So we're not getting past this point. So yeah, I've had close calls, but I got out and I was like, I didn't love that, but I was prepared.
Yeah.
Let's not do that again, but I was prepared.
And it's another data point.
Yeah, another data point of like, yeah, that was a little risky. And I hate days when I get out of adventure, and I want to make this very clear. I didn't love that day.
Sure.
And I think my least favorite days in the backcountry skiing or surfing or anything is when I get out and I'm like, I got lucky.
Yeah.
That's not a good feeling. You want to get out being like, yeah, we crushed that and we were safe.
Because it's not just about us. Like if something happened to us, like the families would be devastated, and we care about them, so we want to
Yeah,
make
and
sure.
you're using resources to
Yeah.
potentially rescue you. So
Oh, true. Yeah.
yeah, we're not going for luck here. We're trying to be safe and calculated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you have a chance to get on the stage and inspire all sorts of people, especially young women in adventure sports, what are the things? What were the main takeaways from your talk at Ageless?
What were some of the main? I think I know some things I talk about often are I do talk about grit, and I define it the way I do. So having courage, going after things that scare you. I think you should do something that scares you every day.
I love that.
And-
Eve, by the way, said the exact same thing. He's like, we get way too comfortable.
Why?
And there's no growth there.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree. And I just do one thing each day that scares you. I'm in sales. It is scary talking to customers sometimes.
Sure.
Like it is scary cold calling someone. That is scary. This today is scary. Like I'm a little nervous. And I think it doesn't have to be I'm gonna go climb a mountain to be scared. It's having a hard conversation or so anyways, grit and courage. I talk a lot about not negotiating with yourself.
Okay.
So if you're gonna set a goal and you have a training plan or you have a plan, go after it. Don't make these little concessions to get out of it. And then
because you're kind of robbing yourself.
Totally. Yeah. If I'm noticing on a long swim that I start negotiating with myself, I'm like, well, if I get out 10 minutes early on this swim, I'll just do another 10 tomorrow. I make myself stay in for 5 extra minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're like, you're punishing yourself for even considering.
Yeah. It's a baby punishment. But sometimes it's like 2 minutes extra, but I'm like, well, you got to train it out of yourselves because sometimes these marathon swims take longer than I anticipate.
Sure.
But I think, those were some big ones. And then sharing my project for next year seemed to be what people were coming up and talking to after. Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we
Like
can.
these incredible swims
Yeah.
that you have coming
Yeah.
up. What when you're figuring out like a big, hairy, audacious goal, are you like throwing a dart at a dartboard, or it's like then shooting higher? Or what is that process like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, the two this year are kind of to the Fairlawns in Tahoe are to lead up to next summer. And next summer I'm going to be the first person. I'm
To swim
taking
to
the word.
Mars. No.
Yeah, I'm taking the word attempt out of the sentence.
Okay.
So we gotta say it with conviction. To swim from Oregon to Mexico.
Wow. That hasn't been done, I'm sure. Right?
No, sure hasn't.
Wow.
So it's 900 miles. It's going to be over 4 months. It's going to be a staged assisted swim.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been done before. And so that is kind of a culmination. Anyways, convergence of everything in my life of like, I grew up sailing in the bay and I learned how to surf around here and I've surfed up north and I'm a swimmer and I've done training swims to Stinson Beach and I've done training swims down south. I'm like, I probably actually swam about 100 miles of this coast. And so, yeah, it's not just throwing darts at dartboard. I've been thinking about it for a really, really long time.
Sure.
And dreaming about it. And then it's what's going to set me up this year to be able to accomplish that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to stay too long in this space of like chest beating or anything. But when you do accomplish something really remarkable, especially when you're the first or set a record, is there like a relief? Can you talk us through like what the emotional experience? There must be like a little bit of pride, but then you're not holding on to that pride because the reason you got that is because the people that helped you get there, it's like a team effort.
Oh my gosh.
So what's the psychological space like right after you've accomplished something like super badass?
Yeah, first, I just have to hit on it is a team effort. Like the only reason Swim California is happening is because people are helping me. Is because a woman named Lily Becker at the Olympic Club heard me say this goal out loud and she's like, yeah, you can't do it by yourself. You need a board and I'm going to be on it. And she's been helping me for 2 years to plan this.
Shout out to her.
None of these things can be accomplished alone. And like, I need to make that so clear of I'm not doing this by myself. The feeling afterwards, there's relief. There's mostly I'm tired and hungry.
We're gonna have to get like a whole mess of Swedish fish.
Yeah. One time I think I ate a whole cake because like, that's all I had and I couldn't cook because I was too tired.
With no fork and knife. Just
bites of Susie cakes. When I swam Golden Gate Bridge to Half Moon Bay, that was my favorite swim because there was no record to go after. And so for me, it was like this soul journey. I was like, I get to swim in my favorite place with my favorite people. This is so rad. That one was just, I was happy. Other swims that I've done, like English Channel or the North Channel, Ireland to Scotland, I went in wanting to break a record. I didn't. And there's some tears after, and then you recognize, I brought hubris to Mother Nature. That's funny because
and then she's like,
good luck. I'm going to throw everything bad at you. So those were really good moments. So, and you go back to mental toughness, I'm tougher now because I had those experiences. So sometimes tears, sometimes disappointment, and then you shake it off and you go on to the next thing.
Yeah. There's like a natural resilience of like, that process of acknowledging you didn't accomplish what you set out to, and then recognizing like that's okay. And then
it's just swimming.
Yeah.
Like, and that's again going back to keeping things in perspective. Like, it's just our job. It's just swimming. I know but
it's so much more too.
It is and it isn't. It is in that what matters is your family, your friends, your health.
Yeah.
Like those are the important things in life. If I swim a little bit slow on my way from Ireland to Scotland, I'm allowed to be upset for a little bit, and I'm allowed to have a desire to want to do more because there is something that drives me. But I can't sit in that space.
Yeah, of course. I heard recently if you're sick, you have if you're healthy, you have a million problems. if you're sick, you have one problem.
I heard that the other day too.
Yeah.
It was that in the book 5 Types of Well? Or I don't know, maybe he was quoting someone.
I don't know where
but anyway,
it's
yes.
making the rounds.
Yes.
And it really resonated with
Yes.
me.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom got sick last summer, and that was our problem. That was
it's a
the
reset.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then actually, the silver lining, I hope mom's doing okay.
She's doing well. Yeah.
Praise God.
Yeah.
It's interesting because for us, and maybe you had a similar experience, is it rallied the family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got a dog, which ended up having like just amazing positive. Everything's better with the dog, and then of course, like, she had the best doctors and a lot of prayers, and it kind of it was like a reset that let us know like that there's just like a lot of baloney that we get distracted by.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We have a question here. What does the water teach you about fear, limits, and freedom? And has open water swimming changed the way you see yourself as a woman, an athlete, or a human being?
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
What has the water taught me kind of about myself?
Yeah, about the fear, limits, and freedom.
Yeah. I mean, for one, it's taught me that it's okay to do things scared. I know I talked about fear here, and it's okay to be scared. We don't have to take unnecessary risk, but I'll just say that. Freedom, I mean, oh my gosh, if you want to talk about something that's limitless and you have full freedom, talk about open water swimming. There's no lane lines, there's no box, there's no black line to follow. And so you really get to be with yourself out there. And in that space, swimming is one of the most unique activities. Open water swimming is one of the most unique activities you can do, in that there is no you're not socializing. There's no technology.
it's pretty solitary.
It's very solitary. Surfing, you're talking to friends sometimes, unless you're by yourself, which in California is rare.
Yeah.
And running, you're looking at streetlights. You have your phone, you have your music. Biking, same thing. Swimming, you have you and your thoughts. And so I think I've had a lot of conversations with myself, and I've had a lot of self-growth just from those hours of being alone. And I would encourage people to do that, in whatever way they can in their own life, is get to know yourself privately.
It's like you can be your own psychologist almost. Like the ocean is.
Yeah, there's some interesting therapy sessions. I sometimes, talk to Mother Nature. I'm like, hey, like, can we turn the current off a little bit? But yeah, I really love the lessons it's taught me. A lot of confidence.
I heard a quote. So we had the Consulate General of Mongolia on a couple months ago, which was super fun. We did that at the Park James Hotel. And he said that there's this Mongolian saying, which is, to have vision, you need to be on a clear horizon. Now, that's a Mongolian saying because there's like, you've got the steppes and a lot of wide open land. But a clear horizon, like, that applies to swimming too.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe that helps you get vision as well.
Yeah, I know it does help me. I swim in the bay a lot, and every day I'm happy about it.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm never gonna get sick of this. And so I would also say to people, to like, appreciate the little things in your backyard. Yeah.
So we have one more. If your swimming story became a movie, what would the title be?
And who would play you?
Okay, I don't know who would. I have no idea. That question I don't think I could answer. What would the title be? I might need like some help brainstorming that one. But I'm actually like a very I don't know what the word is, but I'm a very like I really like poems and song lyrics. So I'm a very like introspective person. And so I'd probably want it to be less of like, oh, I'm tough, I swam, and more of something that feels like pretty and soulful.
Yeah.
I know that's not the answer, but I would want it to lean more that
That's a really good point, because it feels almost like trite to focus on like the strength, because that's like obviously the point.
Yeah.
But I think Reese Witherspoon should probably play.
Oh, she's probably too short.
Don't shoot from the right angles. Right?
There's this, it's talking about songs and swimming. There's this song that I love, and it's by John Craigie. It's called I Am California. And one of the lyrics early on is, if you try to drown your sorrows, you shouldn't have taught them how to swim. And I just am like, oh my,
That's a mic drop right there.
it is a mic drop. And I don't know. I think I love that because it is with like the ocean or anything hard you're doing, you know, don't do it just to like for the sake of I want to be tough. Like learn about the soft parts of yourself along the way too.
Yeah, because you can understand your why better. And if you know your why, then the how becomes easy.
You need to know your why.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And we have last question.
Okay.
Another question.
If you could swim with any historical figure or person from your life, who would it be and why you would like
That's a great question.
share with
Yeah,
that person?
I think pretty easy. Gertrude Ederle, the first woman who swam the English Channel. I knew a little bit about her, but when I watched Young Woman in the Sea, I really dove into the history behind her. She's so cool that like in that time, you know, of history when women weren't allowed to swim, she figured out how to swim and do the English Channel, and she did it pretty darn fast. So I think it would be really cool to go do the English Channel or something with her. Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Thanks.
So we're actually at time. So maybe you could share with the zombie community how they can connect with you, how they could support you.
Yeah.
Maybe is there a website you'd like to share?
Yes.
Or?
I am looking for support and resources right now, so I welcome all of it. My team and I are deep in planning for Swim California. Website is just my name, catherinebreed.com. And you can reach out to me there. That's probably the easiest thing. Instagram is _BeyondTheBlackLine_. That's going to be pivoting to just my name soon too. But yeah.
So if you want to support a truly incredible athlete and a wonderful human being, make sure to support her and check that out. This has been so fun, and the time has just like flown by.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I was like, I want to keep talking.
Yeah, and now the relief because it's all over.
Yeah.
When's your next swim? I'm curious.
So Tahoe is going to be July 17th to 22nd. It's going to be 5 days, and I'll be posting that all over social. And then the Farallons, we're looking August or September.
Okay, gotcha. And I think you have an event on the 30th.
Yes, on the
folks
30th.
can support.
So I know I'm announcing Swim California here, but Swim California is officially going to be launched on May 30th. So it's about a year out from when it's going to start. And we're going to have some media there. And so I'll share information from that.
And we could track your progress and get all sorts of cool updates on zombies.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh,
that was fun.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you. Really enjoyed it. And want to do a shout out to our friends at Necodex. That's NECODEX.com. So if you're building a product or if you're building a service, be sure to check them out. And also thanks to our friends at the Park James Hotel, where we host all sorts of fun events. Great event.
Thanks,
Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Awesome. Thank you.